Microphone testing. Just making sure the microphone is all right. Test 1, test 2. Test 1. All right, looks good. All right, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening for people who are watching from different time zone. Welcome to another Q&A slash office hour slash ask questions. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask those questions, and we will try to address the question in the orders in which we receive them. And if there are no questions, then I can maybe share what I'm working on. I'm working on an amazing small project for the DynamoDB. So yeah, I can share that details, but yeah, let's wait for people to join. And if there are any questions, we will basically address the questions on the chat. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, please put your question in the chat box or the comment window, and let's try to address your questions. We have our first question from Sovit Thapa. Hi Sovit, how are you doing today? Good to see you, man. So where are you from, Sovit? Are you from India? And if you guys have any questions, please post them in the comment window. Oh, that's great. Sovit is from Nepal. That's great. Glad to have you on my channel, Sovit. So if you guys have questions, kindly pop in the comment box or the chat box, and I'll try to answer if I know the answer. Meanwhile, if you don't have anything, I can maybe share what I've been working on. I've been working on, let me maybe share my screen. Let me see if I can share. So I've been working on I've been working on a single table design on DynamoDB, right? This essentially allows to capture the metadata about a job. So for example, just to show you really quick, if I can go to my website. No, not this one. This one, and I'll go to this article. Again, this video should be live shortly on my channel, but I'll just cover up what I've been trying to do this. So really quick, I'll show you over here. Yeah, so when a job, right, when any sort of jobs, or when any sort of like Python or any job starts, right, you want to capture the metadata. For example, when did the job start, when did the job ended up, that way you know how long the job took. I also want to know if the job failed or not, so I want to know the status, right? So and each job can have several process or several tasks, right? So when a Python job starts, you might want to basically log or record important function that you might expect to be failed, right? So you can essentially have detail on the task level. So you can see when the task started, when the task ended, and what is the status, right? So basically when a job runs, when a Python script or any sort of thing runs, it will create a unique process ID, and each process will have a start date, end date. I can know whether the job was successful, whether the job was fired, whether the job was failed. Each job will have several tasks, right? These are the details about the task level, right? I can basically see all the details. So the goal was, how do we manage this in DynamoDB, right? So I essentially modeled, hopefully you guys can see, I'll put my, So here again, this video should be live as I said, but here when a Python job runs or starts, it will write a process ID. Process is a unique GUID, right? It will have a start date, end date, a process status, right? Um, and the S3 path as well. And then here we'll have a task, right? And if you observe, I'm referencing the process in the task table. That way I can fetch all the tasks for a given process. So on a high level, I can see when the process started, when it ended, how long it took, what is the status, and where are the logs on S3, and what type of job was that. And then if I want to dive into the task level, I can say, okay, for this process one, give me all the tasks that you have. So I can see where it failed, where when, at what time it started, what time it stopped. So I can essentially also identify long running tasks. So you could essentially, essentially we're capturing metadata. And then here we have GSI. So this will allow us to say, okay, for a month, give me all the processes that you have, or for the month or for the day, give me all the jobs that you have, right? So essentially these are all the ways in which, I could reference my data, right? So I want to maybe see in a day how many jobs ran, right? So I can use this GSI PK, and then I can use this as a sort key, right? Easily I can filter through the data. So yeah, this is something that I've been working on, and then of course I'm gonna convert this into a design pattern and template. So the goal or the idea is to have like decorators, and automatically when a Python job starts, automatically it's gonna insert a process ID, a start date, and then it's gonna start logging the task that you want to as a decorator. So you can keep sugarcoating your Python classes, and then when the job finish automatically, I'm gonna use like several design pattern here, as I said, decorator design pattern. I'm gonna be using context manager, because in context manager automatically I can initialize the start and end it, and of course all the other metadata. Statuses here are marked as an enum. Again, everything is modeled through a single table. This video should be live shortly. Again, as I said, you know, hopefully my video turns on. So again, this was designed and modeled using a single table design approach. So this video would be live. I will be writing the code and showing you hands-on everything step by step. So yeah, so this essentially is used to capture the metadata about a job, what time it started, what time it ended. It allows you to identify long running jobs. It allows you to see how many jobs failed, how many jobs succeeded, how many jobs are stuck in the pending state. On a high level, it gives you everything about a job. And the job can be a scraper, data cleaning job, right? So you can always filter through job type, right? So that's what I have, designed in Dynamo. The video will be live shortly on my YouTube channel. So hopefully you guys like, and yeah, so there's a lot more cool stuff to learn, right? All right, so now we're gonna address questions. What is the difference between on-demand versus spot instance in AWS? Spot instances are cheaper than on-demand, and why is that? I do not know the exact textbook definition at the current point, but I can definitely Google it up. Again, I know there's a very slight difference between that, right? I know those are like cheaper, but I don't have the exact textbook definition. But certainly I can read more about and get back to you on that question. Hey Ashutosh, how are you doing today? Good to see you on my channel. I think, again, I don't want to quote anything, I don't want to say anything wrong, but I think, as I said, I am using the word think by the name. I have to read more on the exact definition though, but I think on demand means anything that you want to spin up on demand, right? Spot instances are, uh, I might have to read again. I don't have the textbook definition, exact difference. So hence I'll say I do not know, and I'll read about it and I'll get back to your question. So I'll comment on the same video through Shan, right? And yeah, so hopefully you can expect an answer within a day or two. As I said, right, I don't remember exact textbook definition, guys. It's hard. So, but as I said, I'll get back to you. We have Muhammad Sajid says, "Hi Somil, is there a topic? Is there any topic you are covering, or can I ask something on Elasticsearch?" Well, yeah, you can ask your questions on Elasticsearch if you want. It's a live chat, so please put your questions if you want in the chat box, right? And we'll try to answer that, right? Ashutosh says, wanted to know about validation of an API like using validation of an API like using a keep count of requests similar to that. Yeah, so basically you, again, I think what you're trying to do is you're trying to capture the metadata, right? So you want to see how many API calls were made, right? Who were the user, what were the headers, where the request came from, what was the IP address, right? So essentially you want to keep a metadata, right? Um, how do you do validation? Again, if you are not doing on cloud, as I said, API gateway offers all this built in, right? Where you can do rate limiting, throttling, all these stuff is there available. But say you want to do something with your own, Python Flask and maybe SQLite. For small use cases, they are fine, but they usually have a bottleneck when you go to scale. Again, how would you implement? Very, very easy. I would have a table here where I would store the user ID. I would store essentially all the other details such as headers, IP addresses, and all the other stuff, right? And when a request comes in, I would first check. I will do a count, right? So remember, when you do insert all these, you want to set up a TTL. You can set up a TTL for 30 days, 40 days, depending upon use case. And then you can just do a count query and say, okay, for this user, maybe the total number of requests are 60. Oh, you are reaching the limit, right? So maybe you can return an error message. So you will basically add a bunch of business logic or however your rules are. The best way to do that would be through a decorator design pattern. You don't want to pollute your function, keep adding if. Simply sugarcoat your function with a decorator and write your if all statements in that decorator. That's the way you want to do. So you can also work with something called middleware. Middleware is when a request is made, that something is ran first, right? So you could write your logic that in the middleware as well. But these are some of the ways, of course, you can read more about it. Vipul Kumar here says, need some more content on Kafka. Yes, I am not currently planning at this point on Kafka. I may resume in future on Kafka topics or contents, right? But at the current point, I am more into serverless, Dynamo, Kinesis. I'm trying to stay towards the AWS ecosystem. All right, let's answer Muhammad's question. He says, I'm having a property document. And I would like to store all the property likes and views along with it. What is the best way to store this? That's an amazing question. This is a classy example of data modeling exercise. And Muhammad, I love to dive deeper. So just for you, I'm gonna design this in Elasticsearch and show you. So first of all, Muhammad, I would like to refresh your memory here a bit. So let me share my screen. I have a presentation, so I'm trying to find out the presentation for you, and then I'll show you how you can design that. What am I doing? Yeah, so I have to go to the Dynamo folder. Again, I'll show you in Elasticsearch for sure, so don't worry, but I want to show you some concept here. So let me open my slide. Hopefully I have saved that. I want to show you what is a reference versus an embedding model and when to consider each one of them. So give me a second. My PPTs are opening up. My computers are a little slow. I've requested a new computer to my IT. Hopefully they give me a new one. Okay, Muhammad, give me one sec. Where is that tweet? I know I did save that. And the data modeling exercise, LSI. Yeah, I think I found it. All right, Mohammed, here is the answer for your question. So I'm going to share my screen. And again, I'm trying to refresh your memory for data modeling, right? I guess a lot of people can learn from these use cases, right? So your question, again, we'll try to take a screenshot so that people know what we are trying to address. Okay, so this is the question that is asked, right? Mohammed has a question here, and guys, everybody, he's trying to say, okay, he's trying to develop a system where he can store maybe the likes or the views by a user, and he's trying to ask me, hey, what is the best way I should design this, right, in Elasticsearch. So we're going to answer this question, but first let's refresh some memory. Okay. Okay, so in traditional SQL, you will have tables, you will have joins, right? You will have a user table, you'll have a likes table, you'll have a comments, a views table where you will store this entity. But in NoSQL, Elasticsearch, DynamoDB, these are all document-based database, are also called as NoSQL, where you do not have a schema. How do you essentially model this, right? But before that, I would like to refresh your memory a bit on embedding versus reference model, right? So, Mohammed, what is an embedding model, right? So, first we need to understand when to use this and when not to use this, right? So, for example, I'll try my best to use a magnifier here. Hopefully, loads. So, observe this, Mohammed, right? You have a product has several nutrition value, right? So, there is a one to many, right? A product has several nutrition value, right? Now you know that the amount of nutrition value would be finite, right? So when you have one to many, for example, user can like on an item, right? A user can do a several likes, they can do several view, right? You want to store this, right? So maybe, again, I'm not saying this is the way, I'll show you the way to do it, but I'm refreshing your concept here. So what embedding model says that when you have one to many, store the many part in an array, as an object. So nutrition has a product has several nutrition value, right? So what are the advantage here, right? We got to understand this. Retrieve all the data. So you can essentially retrieve all the items in a single go. For example, if you store like likes and on all these views, you can retrieve all the information in a single go, right? That's great. Disadvantage is, again, one of the advantages, you don't have to use join. What is the disadvantage? The document is going to grow large, which means if you have 1,000, 2 million likes, not good, right? So you see the problem what I'm saying, right? So hence I'm refreshing the memory here. Here in the embed model, again, this is a reference model. So in the reference model, Mohammed, what happens is, for example, again, I'll try to magnify and show you. So observe the same thing, right? Nutrition and product, right? So what we are doing is basically we are maintaining a separate collection here for the nutrition, right? A product can have several nutrition. I'm essentially breaking the nutrition, the many part into a separate collection, which means since I know that I have so many likes, I might expect a lot of views. Maybe storing it in a separate collection makes more sense because a user can have thousands, 2,500 likes, right? If you store that in an array, definitely a very bad design because that array is going to grow and soon you're going to have performance issue, right? Now again, so that's that. Now I want to refresh some of the more memory. So Mohammed, you will ask me, hey Samuel, which one to choose, embed or reference? So if you need all the data in a single go, maybe embed model is better. But if a portion of data is rarely accessed and is growing, then you can use a reference model. Now here is an example for one-to-one. You have a user have, simple JSON, right? Here I have an example for one-to-many. A user has several address, right? A business address, home address. Now remember, I have a finite number of address. A user cannot have like a million address, right? I know that this is going to be finite, and hence I'm trying to use an embed model. I'm essentially modeling my many in an array, right, Mohammed? Hopefully that makes sense, right? Now, if you observe, I have few more example for you actually. Right. My slides is stuck. Okay, here. So here, again, a product can have several paths. Think about an aeroplane, right? An aeroplane can have millions of parts, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm using a reference model. I'm storing the many in a separate collection. And if you observe the document ID, I'm storing it in the primary. So I could easily paginate through the parts or etc. 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 1 to million, which means again your use case might be this, right, where you have a million likes, a million views, right? So how do you model that, right? For example, here is a classic example. An IP address has several millions of logs, right? So here we are storing the many part in a separate collection, and they are referencing the host in the many part. So coming back to your question that you just asked me, now how do I model? I will explain you. Hopefully if this opens, usually it is slow, but again, for people, what am I talking about? I'm trying to answer this question here, asked by Muhammad. So hopefully it opens up. again, before that, I don't want to show that I have Muhammad a video where I show like one to one, many to many, how to query the data. So if I was asked a use case, right? Again, there are several ways I would do it. So here is one of the efficient way to do it. If I can get this UML. So say whatever your primary table is, right, in your Elasticsearch, right? So basically, I would have, you'll have all the fields here, right? Whatever field, I would say column one, right? Now what I'll do is, Muhammad, for your use case, if I would have to model that, God damn it. Okay, yeah. So I'll essentially store in Elasticsearch a likes, right? And then here, say you have a user, right? So let's say here I'll store, again, there will be an ID here. ID, this will be an auto generated, right? A randomly generated grid, right? And then what you want to do is you want to have a user, right? So here you will have in Elasticsearch all the detail about the user, and then of course these are the likes. So you will have a likes table in Elasticsearch. You will have a views table in Elasticsearch. Now what you want to do is, there are several ways to, so now again, if you wanna, if anytime a user likes or comment or essentially views, you can essentially get the count at a pretty fast rate in Elasticsearch, right? You could do a count query. Now, what you can also do, and again, I do not recommend this, but you can do a design pattern where basically you'll, whenever an item is initialized, right, you can initialize the like count here, and so the concept here is anytime a user likes or user like, you'll essentially increment the counter in the Elasticsearch here. So now in this main table, you will exactly know how many likes are there, how many views are there. And if you want to see who are the user who did that like, you can essentially pretty efficiently query or paginate your data across this table and get all the user. So hopefully this made sense, and hopefully I did show you some good ways, for example, embed and reference model. And now I'll be back to YouTube for other questions. So Mohammed, hopefully that made sense, right? Hopefully, I hope this did help you. We have a question from Ashutosh and says, what is a device ID which is used to track let me see, which is used to track a user over a web, and how to capture it in Flask. So Ashutosh, what you can do is, you can essentially leverage a, what am I saying? So when a user makes a request in Flask, you can say, you can store, you can get the headers, right? And from the headers, you can get all the information, right? The IP address, the device ID, whether it's an iPhone or an Android, a web app. So basically all the information is there in the headers, and you essentially store the headers. And what you can do is you can essentially create an enum of all the unique device ID, right? And then basically with that device ID, okay, how many impressions are there for this device ID 1? Maybe device ID 1 means iPhone, device ID 2 means this. Maybe it's just an identifier. Hopefully that made sense. Mohammed, so hopefully that made sense. And let me know if you have any more questions, right? Yep. Hopefully that did help everybody. Taking any more questions if you guys have. All right, we do have a question. We have more questions coming. Oops, wrong screen. All right. So we have a question from Amulya K. How to learn about data structures and algorithms in Python, sir? Uh, See, this is the tricky game, right? Again, you can learn all day about lead code and all these stuff and to get into FANG, or you can learn about real world examples, right? Learn about, I would say, if you just want to learn data structures, algorithm, lead code, and HackerRank should help you, hopefully. But don't go too crazy on lead code, again, as I said. Muhammad says, thank you, Saumil. Thank you, Muhammad. I'm glad you found value, right? Muhammad says, one of my use cases that once I return all the property, I want to send a flag, a bool, whether he liked this property or no. This part I didn't understand. Could you explain me what do you mean? One of my use case is that once I return, once I return all the property, I want to send a flag, a bool, whether he liked this property or no. Oh, basically, you are you trying to say that are you trying to like say that whether this user liked this or not, right? Is that what you're trying to say? I guess then that's pretty easy, right? What you can do again, I'll show you that design that we talked about, Mohammed. So Mohammed, right? We have your ID, your user, right? Spelling mistake here. So if you want to know whether this user did like whatever that table, maybe product, catalog, whatever that is. So what makes sense is here you will have an ID, right? So store the ID in the menu part. So let me see if I can put this table. Uh, oh, not that one. Yeah. So store the ID over here. So basically, now you also know whether this guy liked this item or not, right? Hopefully that made sense, right? Yep. Is it possible to get in the single query? See, Mohammed, the only problem, again, you could do that. So it all depends how you want to model it, right? So again, I'm going to share my screen. So Mohammed, if you want to get there in a single query, what you can do, again, I don't recommend because I know why, I'll tell you why. There's a reason why I'm saying this. So again, what you can do is you can say, so this is a, let's say the product, whatever that is, right? So if you want to store, you can store this as an object. So people who did actually like that product or who clicked on that, who said they're interested, you can basically, maintain a user array, but I don't recommend because this will grow massively, right? The document size grows massively, again, as I said. So what made sense is do your item in a separate stuff. I know there will be some extra queries, but this is much more efficient way because these likes and views, Muhammad, will grow very much pretty fast. And your document, if you store this as an object on a document, the array size or the document size will grow. So hence I'm saying it to store it in a separate index in Elasticsearch. I hope that made sense, and I hope that makes sense, right? Because it will grow, right? What if like 10,000 people, you know what I'm trying to say? That object will grow, and soon it will reach a point that it will break. You know what I mean? So, and also a lot of updates will be happening on that same document at a pretty fast rate, which is not good, right? Because you might run into weird scenarios now. So hence I'm saying do the changes in the separate index. It's more queries, but it's much efficient. This is called the reference model, Mohammed, as I said, right? Sajid says, yeah, it likes, and exactly, right? That's why I showed. So this is why I said you want to use a reference model and not an embed model. So I showed you the slides. Embed model is where you store it in a single object as an array. Your use case is where these are going to grow massively, and hence it makes sense to split the JSON into separate entity. So now store that in a separate index. So that is my suggestion. All right, any further questions I can answer? Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. Always happy to help, Mohammed. That's what my channel is all about here. Feel free to shoot me an email, man, if you want to connect and if you want to talk more about Elasticsearch and this and that. I'm actually free right now. If you want to connect with me on Google Meet or Teams or whatever Zoom call, I can spend 30 minutes with you if you want. So I'll send you my email address, and if you want to connect and just talk more, you can send me an email. And I am actually free right now. If you want, I can connect with you on Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, whatever that is. So shoot me an email, and because later I'll be hopping on for other work. So if you want, if you have any further questions, you can ask on the live chat, or if you want to connect privately on a call or meeting, feel free to send me an invite. Again, it's free. I'm not gonna charge anything to anybody there. So feel free to yeah, send me if needed. All right, any other questions that I can answer today? And again, if anybody has questions and maybe they don't just want to ask me, you guys can connect with me over a Google Meet or Teams or Zoom or whatever that is right now. I only do that during my free time because then I have other things to do, right? So if you want to connect, you can ask me live here or send me a meeting invite through an email right now, and I'm more than happy to hop on a call and discuss or talk more or suggest how or what, etc. Yeah, any other questions that I can answer today? Did I put my email address? SHAH. Yeah, that's correct. That's my email address. That's good. So yeah, I mean, yeah, if you have questions, ask. Feel free to ask me, and more than happy to help, man. Sunday, excuse me, Saturday and Sunday morning usually I study. So that's and usually I try to find out time for my YouTube on Sunday morning for Q&A if possible, right? But again, there's a lot of other work that I have. Again, household work, grocery, this, that, everything. So yeah, you just have like in 24 hours, right? So you gotta plan everything pretty well. So, but yeah, if you have any questions, anything that you want to know, please feel free to put that in the comment window. And if you don't have any questions, great. And I guess we are over the time of 30 minutes, so I guess I'm gonna hop off. Well, thank you everybody for your time today. It was really fun talking to Muhammad, Sajid, Ashutosh, Amulya. I hope I hope you guys got your answer, the question that you asked in the chat. If anybody I haven't answered, you can leave a comment here. And again, as and when I get time, I'll try my best to answer. With that being said, guys, keep smiling, keep programming. Next Q&A is next Sunday. See you guys.